In the previous lesson, we took care of installing all necessary tools, including VS Code, Node.js, and extension. Now, in this lesson, we will dive into coding. Keep in mind that your Visual Studio Code may look slightly different from mine, as I have some additional icons and extensions on the left side. However, you don't need them for now. We will cover them later as we progress through this course. JavaScript can be executed in various environments. Firstly, we can run it indirectly in the browser, as we saw it in the last lesson. In fact, JavaScript is the native language for browsers, as it's fully supported by their engines. Secondly, we can use the Integrated Development Environment, or IDE, called VS Code, to write and execute JavaScript code. So for this lesson, we will be utilizing both VS Code and the browser. Another environment we mentioned is Node.js, which we installed in the previous lesson. Although it's not as commonly used as the browser, it allows to execute JavaScript code. In this lesson, I will demonstrate how to run JS files in the Node.js environment. Additionally, there are online code editors like CodePen and similar platforms that enable you to execute JavaScript files. They provide a convenient way to test and run your code without the need for local installations. Lastly, there are command line interfaces, or CLI, available. However, for the purpose of this course, we won't be using them extensively, as they are usually associated with specific services like AWS, terminals, MongoDB, and more. However, I will show you some CLI examples in future lessons. So for now, we will primarily focus on using VS Code and the browser to write and execute our JavaScript code. Now, let's run JavaScript in the browser. To do that, we first need to create an HTML file. In VS Code, right-click in the Explore panel and select New File. Let's name it index.html and press Enter. You will see that an empty file is created with no content. As soon as we assign the HTML extension to the file, VS Code automatically changes the file icon to the HTML icon. This change is facilitated by the extension called VS Code Icons, which we installed earlier. This extension is automatically detected based on the file extension. If we assign a different extension, the icon would change accordingly. Inside the newly created HTML file, press Shift+1 to insert an exclamation mark. By doing this, we trigger the functionality of the emit extension. Immediately, you will see a pop-up with the suggested snippet. Emit provides a boilerplate or template for an HTML file. Press Enter and the snippet will be inserted into your file. It includes the basic structure and content of an HTML file. In our upcoming lessons, we will delve into HTML structure. However, for now, let's shift our focus to running JavaScript code. To begin, type the word script in your HTML file. Emit, the extension we installed, will provide a pop-up with hints about what will be created. Emit will automatically generate the opening and closing tags for the script element. The JavaScript code should be placed between the script tags. In this case, I will write the console.log function and pass a string as its argument. Once you have finished writing code, make sure to save the file. If you notice a white dot next to the file name on the top bar, it signifies that the file hasn't been saved yet. You can save it by either selecting Save from the menu or using the shortcut Ctrl+S. After you save it, the white dot will be replaced with an X, indicating that the file has been successfully saved. Next, we need to execute the file. As you may recall from the previous lesson, we installed an extension called Live Server. If the icon indicates uninstall, it means the extension is already installed. However, if you see an install button, you should press it to install Live Server. Now, let's discuss indentation spaces. Indentation refers to the number of spaces used to align a string relative to its parent tag. For example, if we set the indentation distance to 2 symbols, we can easily verify it by pressing the backspace key once and then typing 2 spaces. We can see that the indentation is precisely 2 symbols or 2 spaces. Hence, in our case, the indentation is set to 2 symbols. After installing VS Code, the default indentation is usually set to 4 symbols. However, I will change it to 4 symbols by creating an additional script tag. Now you will see the difference in indentation. For beginners, using 4 symbols for indentation is recommended, as it makes the code easier to read and understand. The code will work the same way whether you use 2 characters or 4 for indentation. It's a matter of personal preference. Now let's start executing the code. By right-click on the HTML file, I will choose Open with Live Server, and the file will open in the browser. Since we don't have any content inside the HTML file, the page will be blank except for the console log command that says "Hi there." As you can see, "Hi there" has appeared in the browser's console. The output of the first program you just wrote has appeared in the console of DevTools. To open DevTools, you can press F12 or use the shortcut Ctrl-Shift-I. Alternatively, you can right-click anywhere on the page and choose Inspect. DevTools will open and you will see the Elements console, which represents the elements of the web page. This is the same page that we just created in VS Code. And congratulations, you just wrote your first code, your first program. I want to mention that the file was created using HTML5 as indicated by the declaration at the beginning, which includes an exclamation mark and the doc type HTML. This signifies that the file is using HTML5, which is the latest version of HTML. In future lessons, we will dive deeper in HTML concepts. For now, let's focus on how we can interact with the web pages, browsers, and the console. To add content to our web page, we will use a div element, which is a commonly used block element in HTML. I will add a div with a class called myDiv, and it will be automatically added to our web page. I understand that it may be a bit challenging for you to grasp everything at once, but with some more patience and practice, this knowledge will become more accessible to you. Once the div is created, you can enter text inside it, which will be displayed on our web page as actual content. Remember to save the file by pressing Ctrl-S. As you can see, the text has appeared and Live Server automatically reloaded the page. Next, let's write some JavaScript code inside the script tag. Since HTML encounters this script tag, it understands that it contains programming language instructions. We can also add another script tag, but this time we will include the src attribute in the opening tag. This attribute indicates that we will be accessing an external JavaScript file. If we have a script tag that references a file, but the file doesn't exist, we will encounter an error. Let's create the required JS file in VS Code. Make sure to use the exact file name indicated in the script tag. To avoid mistakes, you can simply copy and paste the file name. Now that we have created our JavaScript file, we can repeat the same console log command. I will copy this command and paste it here. You can see that the file is not saved yet, as indicated by the white dot. I will press Ctrl-S to save the file. Now I will change the text of the message to "Hi there" again. As you can see, we now have 2 outputs in the browser console, one from the first script tag and the other from the JS file. To make it easier to work with the JS file, let's drag and drop it to the right side of the screen in VS Code to split the view. Let's move on to the next example. We will create a third script tag. For this tag, I will add the src attribute with the external JS file, and I will include the console log command between the tags. After saving the file, you will notice that the text between the script tags is ignored. The browser executes the external file specified in the src attribute, so only one choice is permitted: either use JS code between the script tags or include it as an external file. If both are included, the JS code between the tags will be ignored. When the browser parses the HTML file, as soon as it encounters the script tags, it executes the code as JavaScript. The first method we used with JS code between the tags is suitable for small code snippets. However, if we have a large file with JS code, it is preferable to use an external file using the src attribute. This keeps the HTML file readable and prevents it from being cluttered with JS code. An additional advantage of using external JS files is that the browser will download the file only once and then use the cached version, which improves performance and reduces pages loading time. Now let's create a variable called myDiv. I will assign it the div element from the HTML document that has the class myClass. To do this, we need to use the getElementByClassName function, followed by parentheses. Inside with the parentheses, I will type myClass in quotes to indicate that I'm accessing a specific div. What we are doing here is creating a constant named myDiv and assigning it the value of the div with the specified class from the HTML file. As you can see, when I press enter, the variable will be created and the first element of the variable will be myDiv. If I hover over the element, it will be highlighted. This means that directly from the console we have access to the HTML page and can manipulate it. So far, I have provided you with some examples of how to use JavaScript. Don't worry if it seems overwhelming at first. These examples were meant to explain how we can access and interact with the web pages, whether it's through VS Code or the browser console. In the upcoming lessons, I will explain all of this in more detail, so it will become clearer to you. Now let's move on to running the JavaScript file in the Node.js environment. If the terminal is hidden and you can see the menu in VS Code, you can either press Ctrl+backtick or Ctrl+Shift+P to open the command palette. Then search for JavaScript debug terminal and open it. The terminal will appear showing you the current path, directory and files. To run the script.js file, we can type node followed by the file name script.js. The file will be executed and you will see the output directly in the console. This demonstrates how the file can be executed as pure JavaScript code without any HTML using the Node.js runtime. Let's conclude this lesson here. In the next lesson, I will explain how to create variables and provide a clear understanding of what variables are and how they work. Each lesson will build upon the previous one, making these concepts more comprehensible as we progress. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions or need further assistance, feel free to comment below. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more great coding content. Stay updated with the latest videos by ringing the notification bell. Happy coding!